Down, 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 boom, 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 boom. All right, this song got my head. Chapter 19. Iberus the Scythian. Iberus. Generally, however, it should be known that Pythagoras discovered many paths of erudition, but that he communicated to each only that part of wisdom which was appropriate to the recipient's nature and power, of which the following is an appropriate striking illustration. When Aberus the Scythian came from the Hyperboreans, he was already of an advanced age, and unskilled and uninitiated in the Greek learning. Pythagoras did not compel him to wade through introductory theorems, the period of silence, and long asculation, not to mention other trials, but considered him to be fit for an immediate listener to his doctrines, and instructed him in the shortest way in his treatise on nature, and one on the gods. This Hyperborean Aberus was elderly, and most wise in sacred concerns, being a priest of the Apollo there worshipped. At that time he was returning from Greece to his country, in order to consecrate the gold which he had collected from the god in his temple among the Hyperboreans. As, therefore, he was passing through Italy, he saw Pythagoras, and identified him as the god of whom he was the priest. Believing that Pythagoras resembled to no man, but was none other than the god himself, Apollo, both from the venerable associations he saw around him and from those priests he already knew, he paid him homage by giving him a sacred dart. This dart he had taken with him when he had fled his temple, as an implement that would stand him in good stead in the difficulties that might befall him in so long a journey. For in passing through inaccessible places, such as rivers, lakes, marshes, mountains, and the like, it carried him, and by it he was said to have performed lustrations and expelled winds and pestilences from the cities that requested him to liberate from such evils. For instance, it was said that Lacedaemon, after having been him purified, was no longer infected with pestilence, which formerly had been endemic, through the miasmatic nature of the ground in the suffocating heat produced by the overhanging mountain Taygetus, just as happens with Knossos in Crete. Many other similar circumstances were reported of Aberus. Not Aberus, Abaris. Aberis. Pythagoras, however, accepted the dart without expressing any amazement at the novelty of the thing, nor asking why the dart was presented to him, as if he really was a god. Then he took Aberus aside and showed him his golden thigh, as an indication that he was not wholly mistaken in his estimate of his real nature. His golden thigh? What? What the fuck is that? Then Pythagoras described to him several details of his distant Hyperborean temple as proof of deserving being considered divine. Pythagoras also added that he came into the regions of mortality to remedy and improve the condition of the human race, having assumed human form lest men disturbed by the novelty of his transcendency should avoid the discipline he advised. He advised Aberus to stay with him, to aid him in correcting the manners and morals of those they might meet, and to share the common resources of himself and associates, whose reason led them to practice the precept that the possessions of friends are common. So Aberus stayed with him, and was compendiously taught physiology and theology, and instead of living by the entrails of beasts, he revealed to him the art of prognostication by numbers, conceiving this to be a method purer, more divine, and more kindred to the celestial numbers of the gods. Also, he taught Aberus other studies for which he was fit, like how to shave. Returning, however, to the purpose of the present treatise, Pythagoras endeavored to correct and amend different persons according to their individual abilities. Unfortunately, most of these particulars have neither been publicly transmitted, nor is it easy to describe that which has been transmitted to us concerning him. Chapter XX. Psychological requirements. We must now set forth a few of the most celebrated points of the Pythagorean discipline, and landmarks of their distinctive studies. When Pythagoras tested a novice, he considered the latter's ability to hold his counsel, akamuthein, akamuthein, being this technical term for this, namely, whether they could reserve and preserve what they had heard and learned. Next he examined their modesty, for he was much more anxious that they should be silent than that they should speak or yawn. Further, he tested every other quality, for instance, whether they were astonished by the energies of any immoderate desire or passion. His examination of their affectability by desire or anger, their contentiousness or ambition, their inclination to friendship or discord, was by no means superficial. If then, after an accurate survey, these novices were approved as of worthy manners, he then directed his attention to their facility in learning, and their memory. He examined their ability to follow what was said with rapidity and perspicuity. He was quick about it, and he had purpose. And then whether they were impelled to the disciplines taught them by temperance and love. And then, for he laid stress on natural gentleness. This he called culture. Ferocity he considered hostile to such a kind of education, for savage manners are attended by impudence, shamelessness, intemperance, sloth, stupidity, licentiousness, disgrace, and the like, while their opposite attend mildness and gentleness. These things then he considered in making trial of those that came to him, and in these the learners were exercised. Blah, 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 in holding their breath. Those that were adapted to receive the goods of wisdom he possessed, he admitted to discipleship, endeavoring to elevate them to scientific knowledge. But if he perceived that any novice was unadapted to them, he expelled him as a stranger and a barbarian. In the original, the 20th chapter continues until after the second paragraph. What? Okay. The daily program. Yo, when Christopher Cantwell says program, it sounds like he says pilgrim. Daily program. The studies which he delivered to his associates were as follows. For those who committed themselves to the guidance of his doctrine acted thus. They took solitary morning walks to places which happened to be appropriately quiet, to temples or groves or other suitable places. They thought it inadvisable to converse with anyone until they had gained inner serenity. Focusing their reasoning powers, they considered it turbulent to mingle in a crowd as soon as they rose from bed. And that is the reason why Pythagoras always selected the most sacred spots to walk. After their morning walk, they associated with each other, especially in temples, or, if this was not possible, in similar places. This time was employed in the discussion of disciples and doctrines. No, of disciplines and doctrines. Yeah, I didn't think they'd be gossipy. And in the correction of manners, chapter 22, after an association so holy, they turned their attention to the health of the body. Most of them were rubbed down and raced. Fewer wrestled in gardens or groves. Others in leaping with laden weights on their hands. They fucking lifted. Yo, the Pythagoreans were part of the Luftwaffe. Or in oratorical gesticulations, with a view to the strengthening of the body, studiously selecting for their purpose opposite exercises. They launched into space. They munched on bread and honey. Oh, why wouldn't you? Or on the honeycomb. Cool. Avoiding wine. Afterwards, they held receptions to guests and strangers, conformably to the mandates of the laws, which was restricted to this time of day. In the afternoon, they once more betook themselves to walking, yet not alone, as in the morning walk, but in parties of 2 or 3, rehearsing the disciplines they had learned, and exercising themselves in attractive studies. After the walk, they patronized the bath, and after whose ablution and after whose ablution they gathered in the common dining room, which accommodated no more than a group of 10. Then were performed libations and sacrifices with fumigations and incense. Then followed supper. Then the sun goes down, which closed before the setting of the sun. How'd I know? They ate herbs, raw and boiled, mazed, wine, and every food eatable with bread. Of any animals lawful to immolate, they ate the flesh, but they rarely partook of fish, which was not useful to them for certain causes. For certain causes, animals not naturally noxious were. What? This sentence is fuck with me. Of any animals lawful to burn, they ate it. However, they not often partook of fish, which was not useful to them for certain causes, and for some fish can cause animals not naturally noxious were, neither to be injured nor slain. Yeah, okay, I don't understand the fucking sentences. Somebody call my master. Oh my god. What the fuck? Okay. But they rarely partook of fish, which was not useful to them for certain causes animals not naturally noxious were, neither to be injured nor slain. I don't know what that means. This supper was followed by drinks, succeeded by what I'm doing right now. The youngest read that what the eldest advised, and as they suggested. When they were about to depart, the cup bearer poured out a libation for them, after which the eldest would announce precepts such as the following: that a mild and fruitful plant should neither be injured nor corrupted, nor any harmless animal. Further, that we should speak piously and form suitable conceptions of divine, tutelary, and heroic beings, and similarly of parents and benefactors. Also, that we should aid, and not obstruct, the enforcement of laws. Whereafter all separated to go home. They wore a white garment that was pure. They also lay on white and pure beds. The coverlets of which were made of linen, not wool. They did not hunt, not undertake any similar exercise. Such were the precepts delivered daily to the disciples of Pythagoras in respect to eating and living. All right. See you next time.